What's up, cats? My name is Fisk, and today we are going to go over sprinting. Now, this was suggested to me by Blue Shoe, I think is how you pronounce that. I have three separate ways of sprinting. One is your normal shift sprint or key sprint. The second one is kind of like a timed one, and the third one is like a double tap. Each one of these is going to be more complex than the last one. So let's start out with just the one key sprint. Starting off, we have our code from the player character with gravity. You don't have to have it, but I suggest you go back and watch my other videos on how to make a very basic platformer character. These I have talked about. They are just variables that store what key you want. I do it like this so that I don't have to type this out every single time. It also allows you to change key bindings. To start with, you're going to need to add two variables, and these will actually be used in all three different types of sprinting. They are going to be your sprint and your walk variables. In the old code that we just had a static 5 for our movement speed. So I put my walk as 5 and my sprint as double that speed. So we're going to come in here to our step, and just below my movement setup, and you don't have to put it here, you can put it anywhere you like because we're just manipulating variables. I'm going to put in an if key sprint. And I've explained keys before. And in these brackets, we're just going to say move, if I could type, speed equals sprint. Then we're going to add in an else statement and just say move speed equals walk. Now if we compile, you can see here that I've got my little cube, and as I press shift, he does change color because I set it up that way. That's just a sprite index change. And as you can see, it does in fact move faster across the screen when I hit shift. Next up, I'm going to comment all this out, and mass commenting is just slash asterisk, and then for the end of it, asterisk slash. We are going to do a timed sprint. Think Metroid. When you are sprinting, there's a certain amount of time you have to be sprinting to Shine Spark, or maybe you just want it automatic so that no keys have to be fussed with. Maybe you want a small warm-up of walk speed, then a sprint speed. This is going to be the code for you. For setup, we're going to need a variable sprint time and a variable sprint trigger. Sprint time should be set to 0, whereas speed trigger is whatever length of time you want for it to trigger. To start out, we're going to open up with an if hmove does not equal 0. And hmove is just how I have my movement set up. If you don't have an overarching variable or a way to detect whether or not you're moving, just say if key right and or key left. That should be good enough. I have not tested it, so your mileage may vary. We're going to put in a couple of brackets here and say sprint time if I could think, plus equals 1. And then we're going to have another if statement. if sprint time is greater than sprint trigger, again, if I could type. Right, sprint trig. Jeez. We're going to put in another set of brackets here. And we're going to say move speed equals sprint. We're going to open up an else statement and say move speed equals walk. Then coming down to our if hmove does not equal 0, we're going to open up another else. And say else sprint time equals 0. Now if we compile, we can see that if I'm moving around a little bit, you know, I don't start sprinting, but if I come over to the edge of the room here, after a few seconds, I start sprinting. Now you might notice that if I don't move after sprinting, the variable is still at the sprint speed until I start moving again. If that's conflicting with your code, just come into this if hmove does not equal 0 else statement and just put in move speed equals walk. And once you let off the key after sprinting, it then turns blue again to denote that we are on walking speed now. I have it set up without it because if you can bounce between your left and right keys fast enough, you can actually keep your sprint, and I kind of like that. Now, our next one is going to be the most difficult, so I'm going to make sure that we have enough space here because it is quite fiddly. And this is our double tap to sprint. So for this one, we're going to need 3 variables plus our sprint and walk, which is double key t or double key time. We're going to have that set to 0. Double key, which is also set to 0. And double key t or double key time, max, set to, I have it set to 20. You can set this variable up however you like. Another thing that you will need is key double pressed, which is keyboard checks for your right and left keys. I have mine set to D and A. So we're going to start with if key double press and double key is less than 1. Open up some brackets. Double key equals 1. And double key t, or double key time, equals double key t max. Moving out of those brackets, we're going to open up another if statement, and that's going to be if double key t is greater than 0 and double key is greater than 0. We're going to open up some brackets and say double key and say double key t minus equals 1. Then inside these brackets, we're going to open up another if statement. If key double pressed and double key T is less than double key T max minus 3. So this minus 3 is really super duper important because your keyboard will actually report a pressed signal for several frames. So we need to cut out 2-ish frames maybe. If you find that when you're using this double key method and it goes straight from standstill to sprinting, this is usually the reason why. So if you find that you're still going straight to sprinting, start pumping up this number. So we're going to open up some brackets for that and say double key equals 2. We're going to close that bracket, close that bracket. Then we are going to start off a new if statement and say if double key equals 2. Move speed is equal to sprint, else move speed equals walk. If hmove equals 0 and double key T is equal to 0, brackets, double key equals 0. Now we compile. And as you can see, we can now sprint if I double tap my keys. And as you can see, if I double tap too slowly, we remain walking. If I tap them as fast as I can, we start sprinting. If I hold, we're still walking. There is a little bit of weirdness that you can just double tap the other direction. Maybe that's something that you want. But it only works some of the time. There you go. 3 methods of sprinting. I hope that you found one of these useful. If you have any suggestions or comments or problems with the codes, do comment down below. I do check every single one of them. I do not get very many comments at this point in time. Like, subscribe, just in case. I don't know. I'm not the boss of you. And until next time, happy coding.